Long gone are the classic historical stories we were told in school, like George Washington cut down a cherry tree and many more. With the advance of technology and ease to access of information over the past 2 decades, we're starting to discover that some of the stories we were told in school may not have been completely true and drive you into a panic of disarray and question if anything is even real. Here are some examples of historical stories where the information may have been skewed. I'm Mike from Collection of Madness, and these are the top 10 historical facts you didn't know. In 2022, Ben and I sailed the ocean blue to bring this content straight to you. Subscribe. You're welcome. Number 10, using forks used to be seen as sacrilegious. What the fork? Forks, the widely used eating utensils, were once seen as blasphemy. They were first introduced in Italy in the 11th century. These spiked spaghetti twirling instruments were seen as an offense to God. And why, do you ask? Because they were interpreted to be artificial hands, and as such was considered to be sacrilegious. Number 9, Paul Revere never actually shouted the British are coming. While everyone knows the story of Revere's famous ride in which he was said to have warned colonial militia of the approaching enemy by yelling "the British are coming," this is actually false. According to History.com, the operation was meant to be quiet and stealthy since British troops were hiding in the Massachusetts countryside. The ride actually occurred as Revere signaling hand signs to warn the troops. Also, colonial Americans still considered themselves British at the time. Number 8, ketchup was sold in the 1830s as medicine. Forget ibuprofen. In the 1830s, popular medicine consisted of an array of miscellaneous items. One of these made ketchup all the rage in medicine. In 1834, it was sold as a cure for indigestion by Ohio physician named John Cook. It wasn't popularized as a condiment until the late 19th century. The more you know. Number 7, Napoleon was once attacked by a horde of bunnies. Once upon a time, the famous conqueror Napoleon was attacked by, bunnies. The emperor had requested that a rabbit hunt be arranged for himself and his men. His chief of staff set it up and had the men round up nearly 3,000 rabbits for the occasion. When the rabbits were released from their cages, the hunt was ready to go. At least that was the plan, but the bunnies charged towards Napoleon and his men in a vicious and unstoppable onslaught, and we were taught that Waterloo was the conqueror's greatest defeat. Bunnies. Number 6, Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb. While Edison did have an astonishing 1,093 patents, the majority of these were none of his own inventions. He stole most of them. Typical. While he did land the patent for the light bulb in 1880, the real inventor was actually Warren de la Rue, a British astronomer and chemist who actually created the very first light bulb 40 years before Edison. Number 5, the Bloody Mary wasn't always called the Bloody Mary. The termed morning drink everyone seems to go to, not me. You will never catch me drinking this monstrosity, and you can't convince me otherwise. The popular brunch beverage and hangover cure didn't actually start off as being called a Bloody Mary. Nope, it was actually called a bucket of blood. Appetizing. After a bucket of blood, it transitioned into the red snapper, and finally, the Bloody Mary. Number 4, George Washington Carver did not invent peanut butter. Contrary to the popular belief, George Washington Carver did not invent peanut butter. However, he did discover over 300 uses for peanuts, including chili sauce, shampoo, shaving cream, and glue. Carver, an American agricultural scientist, was one of the greatest inventors in American history. He promoted alternative crops and methods to prevent soil depletion. He was the most prominent scientist of the early 20th century. Number 3, cars weren't invented in the United States. No, it wasn't Henry Ford's Model T in 1908. The first car actually was created in the 19th century when European engineers Carl Benz and Emily Levasseur were working on an automobile invention. Benz patented the first automobile in 1886. Their plans would soon cross the sea, where Ford and others would take a crack at producing these vehicles on a mass level. Number 2, a woman was elected to Congress before women could vote. A woman was elected to the U.S. Congress before women could even vote. Janet Rankin joined Congress in 1916, which was 4 years before women could even actually vote. The 19th Amendment, which gave women the right to vote, wasn't passed until August 18, 1920. Rankin served on Congress from 1941 to 1943 and was the only person to vote against the declaration of war on Japan after the Pearl Harbor attack. Number 1. President Abraham Lincoln is in the Wrestling Hall of Fame. Yes, Honest Abe brought the pain at one point, but not how you may think. Before the 16th president took office, Abraham Lincoln was declared a wrestling champion. The 6'4" president had only one loss among his around 300 contests. He earned a reputation for this in New Salem, Illinois, as an elite fighter. Eventually, he earned his county's wrestling championship, earning him a spot in the National Wrestling Hall of Fame. And that's our list. Know any more crazy historical facts? Leave them in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and like this video and check out more great content on the channel.